I don't have a good image toward parents. When I was in the 8th grade, my father had an affair and eloped. My mother, who was a housewife, took me and my younger sister Anne, who was still in the 2nd grade, and went back to her parents' house. My mother started working part-time, but a few months later, she and her boyfriend disappeared, leaving me and my sister alone with our grandparents. Is Mom not coming home yet? Yeah, I think so. We're your parents from now on.
You are our precious grandchildren. From now on, the 4 of us will live happily together.
Yeah. My grandparents were kind and took good care of Anne and I. However, when I was a senior in high school, my grandparents died. Before we knew what happened to our grandparents' inheritance, it was divided among their siblings, and Anne and I were sent to an institution without receiving a single penny. I worked hard at studying under my grandparents and earned money for school fees with part-time jobs, but I gave up on going to university. I couldn't count on my so-called parents. I'll be independent and take care of my younger sister. I decided to do so, and after graduating from high school, I got a job and left the institution to live with Anne. I don't have a good image of parents, and rather, a bad image of them being very selfish. I couldn't imagine myself getting married, having a family, and becoming a parent. That's what I thought. But one day, I met my husband Pete through an introduction from my boss at work. As we got to know each other better, we began to talk about our families, and I realized that Pete was in a similar situation as me. I heard that Pete's father also chose his mistress and left Pete's mother from the affair.
I totally understand. I'm mad at my dad too for being a complete jerk.
Yeah, I was angry, but I was sad. My sister and I cried from time to time.
I still had my mom, but it must have been really hard to have both of your parents leaving you and your sister like that.
Yeah. A husband who sympathizes with my struggles. With a husband like this, I might be able to have a proper family. And so, Pete and I began dating with marriage in mind. A few months after we started dating, Anne, who was attending a vocational school, decided to get a job and announced that she would be going out on her own. Hey sis, I finally got a job! Really? That's great! Congratulations! So, I'm going to be on my own from now on. What? Thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. So don't worry about me anymore. From now on, I want you to live for yourself. I want you to marry someone you love and be happy. Oh, thank you too. Anne's words made me all teary. I am so happy that she grew up to be kind and strong. For Anne's sake, I will get married and create a happy family. And 1 year later, I married Pete. I want to spend my married life in a relaxing way with just Pete and I. I wish to have this kind of feeling before marriage. Pete, on the other hand, seemed to want children early on, even before we were married.
I do want children. I want to raise my kids properly so they won't be sad.
Yeah, me too. I was still hesitant about becoming a parent myself, but I know that we can create a family, so I can do my best to make sure my children won't feel the same way I did and create a happy family. With Pete, I feel like I could do that. As I talked with Pete about this subject before we got married, I gradually became more and more positive about having a child. However, welcome home. It seems like you've been busy at work.
Yeah, I'm tired today too, so I'm gonna go sleep.
I see. Ever since we got married, my husband would say he was tired from work and quickly go to bed every night. Although we are newlyweds, we haven't been intimate since we got married. He said he wanted to have children, but what's going on? Doesn't he want to have a baby? It's been a year since we got married, and the situation hasn't changed since then. Now, my mother-in-law Lisa has been urging me to have children. I really want to see my grandchild soon. Is that possible?
Oh, we still want to enjoy our life together, and we're both busy at work at the moment.
If Kim quits her job, you both could have better timing than now, right? Huh? It's one of the wife's role to show her mother-in-law their grandchild's face, isn't it? Well, I can't really just quit work, and there are various procedures for quitting, like finding a suitable successor, so I can't quit so soon. I see. Well then, I wonder when I'll be able to see my grandchild's face. My husband is the one who goes to sleep right away because he's tired, so putting that kind of pressure to only me is really unfair. Pete doesn't even try to support, or at least try to cover me when Lisa pressures me with this topic. If he doesn't want children anymore with me, why doesn't he just say it? What is he thinking about? On the way home from Lisa's house, I was so frustrated that I finally confronted Pete about it. Lisa thought that because of my work, we couldn't have children, and she blamed me for it. And yet, you didn't even try to support me. What's happening here? I mean, you always say that you're tired in the first place, and you don't even seem to want to have kids at all. But didn't you want to have kids?
That's...
What are you trying to do?
Actually, I'm infertile.
What?
I said I wanted to have a child, but I couldn't consult to you about the fact that I'm infertile. I'm really sorry.
I had no idea that my husband was infertile. When I looked at him and saw his sad face, I felt my heart tighten. It was hard for Pete too, and he was going through it. Don't apologize. I'm sorry too. You should have told me.
I know you want to have children too.
I'm completely fine as long as you and I can live together.
Thank you.
With this, Pete and I made up. It doesn't matter if we don't have children. I only hope for us to live together happily. A few months later, Anne had told me that she had decided to get married. That's great! Congratulations! Thank you very much! Anyway, I'll bring you something to celebrate. Her boyfriend was a classmate of hers from vocational school, and they supported each other since then, which developed into a relationship. I decided to visit the house where Anne and her boyfriend lived after work, bringing a gift to congratulate them. On the day when I was about to head to my sister's after work, oh, I forgot the ring. I realized that I had forgotten my grandmother's ring. I had intended to give my grandmother's ring to Anne with a gift. My grandmother's ring was entrusted to me by my grandfather, who told me to sell it when my grandmother passed away if I had trouble making ends meet. However, since this was the only memoir of my grandmother, I never sold it and kept it with great care. Now, I want to entrust it to Anne, who is getting married. Why did I even forget something so important? So, I went back home once to get the ring. The ring was tucked away on a shelf in the bedroom, so I rushed to the room. And lo and behold,
Is it okay with your wife and all?
She's coming home late today, so it's fine.
In the bedroom, I saw Pete and a woman getting intimate. Ah!
Ugh!
I can't believe what I'm seeing right before my eyes. I thought Pete wasn't interested in getting intimate because even if he was infertile, it would be only natural for him to be intimate and have desires. But he didn't even have that. But instead, he was being intimate with another woman. And he brought her home while I was gone. I had no idea he was such a prick. At first, I was surprised, but as I realized what was going on, I gradually got calm. I could no longer look at Pete with anything but contempt as I turned my gaze towards him, and he was the worst of the worst. I packed my suitcase and photographed the scene of the two being naked with my cell phone as they remained frozen.
Hey.
Are you being for real? Both of them started to wince, but I couldn't care less. We'll divorce. Alimony will be paid by you and her, so be prepared.
Wait a minute, I'm not sure I'm ready for a divorce.
I swallowed a lot of thoughts for you over the past few years and tried to be a good wife to you, but you betrayed me from the very beginning. You have been ignoring me and haven't been intimate with me since we got married. Pete couldn't say anything back as I said so and glared at him. I held on tightly to my grandmother's ring and left the house. We then decided to set up a meeting to discuss the divorce. Pete didn't want a divorce, and he apologized repeatedly, but who the hell does he think he is?
I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Please reconsider about the divorce.
Now I know about your affair, just confess everything honestly. So, Pete told me everything, including who the woman was and how long he had been friends with her. Then, he gave me the most shocking news.
I actually have a child with her.
What? So it was a complete lie that Pete was infertile. I can't believe he has a child with his mistress. Pete worked overtime every day, came home tired, seemed to have no hobbies, and couldn't afford to save enough money. I had my doubts, but I never interfered, thinking that Pete, who couldn't confess his infertility, might be making some effort in his own way. But that money was spent to that woman and their child. Pete seemed to be under the mistaken impression that if he confessed to everything, he would be forgiven.
I'm so sorry. Please reconsider the divorce.
We will divorce.
Huh? I just confessed everything.
You betrayed my trust with a horrible lie about being infertile, and you even had a child behind my back. You're horrible, Pete. He just confirmed to me that he is an irredeemable prick, a scumbag, and a lousy man. How could he think that this would make people forgive him? I rented an apartment, moved out, filed for divorce settlement, and Pete seems to have realized that I'm not going to forgive him.
Even if I divorce, I need the money to raise a family. So please, don't request for an alimony.
He was so selfish to use his child and the woman as a shield to save him. How dare he has the nerve to do that to me? Since the divorce settlement was going nowhere, I was prepared to sue him. How could you do such a thing? How dare you cheat and betray your own wife?
That's...
How dare you walk down the same path as your father, who cheated on me and chose his mistress? How could my son turn out to be such a horrible, horrible person? I can't believe that my life has come to this. When Lisa found out about the affair, she broke down in tears as if it was the end of the world, and she blamed her son for it. Furthermore,
What is the meaning of this? You have a wife.
weren't you married to my daughter? What do you mean, affair?
Oh, you even have a child with my daughter. How dare you? You better take responsibility.
He even got lectured from the woman's parents, who thought he was marrying their daughter. In the end, Pete finally agreed to the divorce. Pete and his mistress ended up paying thousands in alimony. My boss, who introduced Pete to me, was furious when he found out about this. Pete lost his position within the company and was getting fired.
I can't believe I'm getting fired.
Can you please rethink about him getting fired? I believe that he should be able to pay his alimony with no delay, while properly raising his child with the income he worked for. My boss and Pete's boss agreed with my opinion, and Pete managed to avoid being fired. Instead, he has to continue to work desperately while getting cold shoulder from his colleagues, especially from his female colleagues. I know it would be a bed of nails for him, but it's his own fault. He really was a scumbag. But sis, I'm glad that you're doing better than I thought you would. Well, I do feel much better after the divorce. And I feel better when I get to see you. I'm glad. Please come visit me anytime. Thank you. As for my sister, she is happily married to her faithful partner. That is the only thing that keeps me going. I hope she is happy and doesn't have to go through the same thing as I did. I have had enough of marriage. If my sister has a child, I would like to take care and give my love to that child. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. Have a wonderful day.
If you don't want to live with my parents, then we are getting a divorce.
My husband, Tom, said this to me with a serious face. To that, I try to reply with, but then he starts to scold me as if we are in a manly fight.
I am an only child, so it is my duty to take care of my parents. You knew about this, and now you're saying you don't want to live with my parents? This is not allowed.
I was so surprised that I couldn't say anything back to Tom, when I should have. I am not opposed to living with the in-laws, but I am just feeling very frustrated and stressed all the time with the extremely unreasonable demands from my husband and in-laws. Since my husband, Tom, was an only child, he seems to have been raised with a lot of, well, too much love from his parents. Tom was so spoiled that even as a child, he got anything he wanted, and the in-laws just praised on anything and everything he did. To my surprise, his parents bought him a semi-double luxurious bed which cost $3,000 just because he said,
The bed is too firm.
once. This happened when he was just a university student. Since they were that kind of in-laws, even after we were married, they would come to me with many unreasonable demands. For example, my mother-in-law raised her eyebrows when she saw me buying and cooking a large bag of chicken thighs, which was affordable when we were tight on money like the day right before payday. Stella, recently Tom has been complaining that your cooking is not yummy and not satisfying because you only cook chicken thighs. Just because it's cheap, don't cook poorly, and sometimes, why don't you try to cook something delicious? Since my mother-in-law, Clara, would say such thing, I would try to cook a pork steak. Then my father-in-law, Richard, would grumble.
Isn't pork steak what poor people would eat? Since Tom is working hard and earning enough, shouldn't you make him praise him by making him a beefsteak? I seriously feel bad for Tom for marrying a wife from a poor family.
If Clara and Richard would think for a second that Tom is not satisfied in any way, they would immediately blame it on me and complain it to me. Also, they would say how they pity Tom for it. Really, every time I would see my in-laws, I feel very stressed. But Tom is an only child. I knew one day he would say about living with the parents, so I was being prepared for it. I am also an only child too, and only had my father Bob. We were well off, and Bob raised me all on his own. Bob was really good at house chores too. So every time I would go back and visit him, that's all I needed to do. Bob also didn't expect anything from me.
I understand that you already have too much plate on yourself by dealing with the parents-in-law. No need to worry about me, Stella.
Every time I visit him, he would always tell me that, and also make sure that he was very proud of me for it. Perhaps it was because of those words from my father, I was able to withstand the unreasonable demands from Clara and Richard. Just then, my father passed away. According to my father's friend, Sam, who came to the funeral, told me that Bob had been suffering from cancer for several years. He probably kept it a secret from me to not be a burden on me. He did not show any sign of cancer, nor even a hint of illness to me. My father, who spent many years as a single parent, never revealed his illness to me until the very end, just because he loved and cared and didn't want to be any burden to me. To think about my father, I couldn't stop crying. Your father was too young to die, Stella. Clara and Richard, who came to the funeral, greeted me. Us too. We never know if we will become sick and be hospitalized. I am too horrified to think about dying alone, not even seeing my child next to me when I am dying.
Yes, after all, if you are the child, you have to take care of your old parents. We are getting old too, you know. Instead of grieving for my father, nor caring for my feelings, Clara and Richard implied that I was the filial daughter, and that they pity my father, and above all, she pressured me to take care of them as Tom's wife. Since what they were saying to me was so rude, I was about to say something back, but then I saw my father's smile in the portrait. It's okay. Don't worry about me. You are doing a good job, Stella. My father's words and his kind smile came back to my mind, and I managed to swallow the words that were almost coming out. It was near the end of the funeral that I discovered that my father's estate included a large tract of land in New York. Sam, who had kept the will, handed it to me. Such a big land, and is one of the nicest places in New York. It will be a waste if you don't use it wisely. Back at home, I was reading the will when Tom snatched it up from me, and after he read it, he spoke to me with excitement. Hey, what do you think about building a two-family house here and living in with my parents? Don't you think it's a great idea? Two-family house? I was too shocked. I just repeated the words. Why is my husband deciding on how to use the land I inherited to suit him and his parents? It's too early to make a decision about it. Let me contemplate about it. What are you saying? There's no need to contemplate about it. For this kind of things, you should make fast decisions. Besides, I have been thinking about how to live with my parents for a long time now. Then came with this inheritance of a land. Perfect! I bet God is telling us to build a two-family house on this land. Don't you think so?
I don't think so at all. There wouldn't be a God who would suggest such thing. I took a very deep breath and told him, "Wait, since I am the one who inherited this land from my father, let me contemplate on how to use this land."
Wife's things belong to her husband's also.
Tom yelled back at me.
Besides, you have been living off my income, and when you inherit a land, you're saying it only belongs to you, and you alone. Isn't that too convenient? If you are saying such things, then stop using my money.
I didn't say it belonged to me and only belonged to me. Since I am the one who inherited it, I have my say in how to use this land, and I wanted you to hear me out about it.
If you have a better idea than mine, I'm all ears.
Tom crossed his arms and glared at me as if to say something. I can't think of any because it's too sudden.
See, I knew it. There isn't any better idea.
Wait, let me do my researches and let me choose the best way to use this land.
We don't have that kind of time to contemplate on it.
Tom turned his back to me. At this time, I couldn't talk to him any further. After this conversation about the inheritance of the land, I tried several times to discuss about it, but Tom would not listen to me at all. The only thing he would say back to me is, "We're building a two-family house." Sam, whom I spoke to briefly at the funeral, called me to check on me several times because he was concerned about me. Now that my father has passed away, Sam was my only source of comfort, and thanks to him, I was able to keep my feelings into perspective and remain unbroken by Tom because Sam was listening and hearing me out on what was happening between Tom and I. After about 6 months had passed, someone claiming to be an employee of a major house building company called me. "The house you have ordered is about to be completed, and we were wondering if we could set a date for your final check." "What? Ordered house?" I repeated in a questioning tone, and the person on the other end of the phone sounded puzzled as he explained. He said the house was ordered to be built 6 months ago. "Tom, what is this about? Did you order a house to be built behind my back without mentioning it to me?" I asked Tom on the same day, but the answer I got back from him had no sign of apology.
You were taking too much time to contemplate, so I went ahead and decided for you.
But you just did it without discussing it with me, which is horrible.
If I didn't do what I had done, you won't listen and just be unreasonable, and nothing will get decided at all.
What do you mean by unreasonable? Is it wrong for me to have an opinion on what to do with my land?
It's not your land. I said it before. Wife's things belongs to her husband's also. Don't make me repeat.
But you could have said something about it to me. Tom just sighed loudly, purposely, and said,
"What a pain in the ass," under his breath. You don't want to live with my parents that much, huh?
That is not the point. I have the right to have a say in how the land is used.
Anyways, if you don't want to live with my parents, let's divorce.
I was surprised at how quickly this conversation went. Is my husband threatening me for a divorce just because I don't want to listen and give in to his idea of building a house to live with his parents? But
I am an only child, and it is my duty to live and take care of my parents. You knew about this, and you have no right to say no to it.
And this is the reason why I have left Tom. I had no hesitation signing the divorce paper. I was treated in such an unreasonable manner. My love for him was gone, and I have nothing but frustration and stress from Clara and Richard. Both Tom and his parents told me to get out, but I preferred it that way anyways. My only regret was that they took my land, which my father had left me away from me. I called Sam and told him what had happened to that land. "That must have been hard." His voice was filled with sympathy, but soon became powerful. "But don't worry, we'll get that land back." "What?" Without answering my question, Sam just smiled. After the divorce, I was living in an apartment. I was looking for a job which I was having difficulties, but I was in no rush. I already had a well-planned out plan for a stable life in the future. My only concern was the land I had gotten from my father. I didn't understand what Sam meant, but I still decided to wait and believe in him that everything would be alright because he was my father's friend. Then, I received a phone call from Tom.
Hey, you signed a contract to build a mansion on that land. Why didn't you tell me so? You framed me, didn't you?
What? What are you talking about?
I just got sued from the construction company because I built the house already on that land.
Since he called me when I was meeting up with Sam, I made a gesture of questioning what Tom was talking about. Sam just smiled at me and took the phone away from me and started to talk to Tom. "Hey, Tom, you're speaking too loud. Everyone can hear you. Don't you know how to speak to a lady? The way you speak, wouldn't it be considered as a moral harassment?"
Huh? Who are you?
Sam was right. Tom's voice was so loud that I could hear him when the phone is in Sam's hand. "I am an old friend of Stella's father. I have heard a lot from him. Stella's father is the one who made the contract to build the mansion. He was worried that you and your parents would use this land without Stella's permission, even though Bob only left it to Stella, so he made a contract to build a mansion before his death."
Why didn't I hear about this?
It was written in the will. You took the will away from Stella before she could finish the last page of the will, didn't you? Also, you yourself read only the beginning of the will and felt better about it, and didn't read the will till the end, isn't that right? Sam was right. Tom did take the will away from me while I was still in the middle of reading. After he took the will away from me, he never let me read it again. As I was talking to Stella, she told me the truth, and when I heard the truth, I thought you would terminate the mansion contract on your own, so I kept quiet about it.
I knew it. You framed me.
No, I didn't frame you. You dug your own grave. I did not do anything. I could just imagine Tom's teeth chattering on the other end of the phone, and I felt great about it. And also, I think Stella has something to tell you. As Sam said that, he gave me back my phone. Yes, I did have something to say to Tom. I have something to say to Tom which he will regret. That is why I needed my time. I was taking my time to find a way for Tom, Clara, and Richard to regret for letting me go. Tom, I believe that soon you will be receiving claim for damages and alimony as well.
Huh?
The voice of Tom was so loud and sounded so dumb.
What do you mean by that?
Tom, since you used my land behind my back without my permission, I was so frustrated, so I did my research a lot. And then, I found out. I found out that I was able to claim for the damages if a house is built on the land without a permission.
You've got to be kidding me. It wasn't without a permission. Because what belongs to the wife belongs to the husband.
But I am not your wife right now, am I? As I said this, Tom just didn't know what to say back. That land is still mine right now. Because we got divorced, you and your parents have no right whatsoever to use my land at all.
But when I built the house, it was while we were married.
Yes, behind my back, without my permission. Without my permission, you have built the house on my land, and because I was opposed to it, you just kicked me out of the house and divorced me. Again, Tom was silent. So I continued. Oh yeah, by the way, all the conversations we had about the house and land is recorded. The fact that you started saying that you will build a two-family house on my land, even though I wanted to have some say in it, and that without my permission, you have started to build a house, and every time I would say something about it, you would just harass and scold me about it. But this is all recorded. I talked and submitted this recording to my lawyer. This is for the alimony. I heard Tom say damn on the other end of the phone. Then without any more saying, he just hanged up. Wow, he just hanged up. I had more to say. As I said that, Sam laughed. Haha, you had more to say? Stella, you go, girl. I know, right? Sam, you're pretty mean too. You didn't tell me about the mansion. I could have told it to you, but I didn't know if you would be like this to Tom. I am proud of you. Sam looked so happy. I smiled. Thank you. Then, it didn't take long before Tom called again. But this time, he didn't call with thuggish attitude like before. He was so upset that he really sounded like he was about to start crying.
Stella, I am sorry. I am truly sorry. You're the only one for me, and I still love you. So let's get married again.
I can't believe you now. After all you put me through?
I know, I am sorry. I am very sorry. I'll apologize as many times as I have to.
No way. If I get married, you and your parents will get together again and pick on me, won't you?
I won't do that.
I knew why Tom was so desperate to have me back. After consulting with my lawyer, Tom and his parents had to tear down the house and give back the land over to me. If that's the case, Tom and his parents, who had already moved out from their original home, will have no more place to live at all. In addition to the mansion construction company's lawsuit, there is the eviction from me. They would have no other choice but to abandon the house Tom had just built. So that is the reason why Tom is sucking up and trying to win me back, hoping that I will somehow drop the lawsuit against them and do something about the mansion contract about it. Or there were other ways I could have helped him. For example, I could just purchase the house Tom has built. If I buy the house from Tom, of course, it wouldn't be the full price Tom has paid, but at least Tom and his parents will get some amount of money. With this money, they could have started a new life. However, since they tried to take the land away from me, I was not going to show any mercy at all. So without any of their say in it, I decided to have the house they built to be demolished. After Tom and Clara called, then Richard called. We are old and we don't have much more time. At my age, I can't imagine being onto the streets.
I will apologize if I've given you such hard times. So can we have another chance?
But I completely refused to comply with their demands. In the end, Clara hysterically cursed me, "You devil," but this was nothing more to me than a howling of a loser. I replied, "Whatever." After that, the demolishing of the house was completed and the land was given back to me. As scheduled, the mansion was built on my land. There are many tenants and I have a very steady income. In addition to that, I am receiving compensation from Tom and his parents. I'm getting transferred a reasonable amount of money every month. As for Tom and his parents, they have moved into a very cheap apartment and is managing to get by. They are in quadruple payment disaster. The damage compensation and alimony to me, the loan of the house which was demolished, and the damage to the mansion construction company. Not being able to pay his bills by his income now, Tom is working a second job. Clara started a part-time job, and Richard is working by cleaning restrooms of a shopping mall. Since Tom, Clara, and Richard have a tight bond, I hope they will continue to cooperate and work together to pay me and the construction company off. I will also keep on checking on them to make sure the payment will not be delayed. I won't lend a hand to them for sure, though.